Ugh. Very good morning, everybody. Let's see if we have any breakfast. It's also a little bit smelly in here. It's a small room. I've been asleep for a while. You know, things get smelly. So let's see if we have... Oh, we only have bone meal. That's not brilliant. So let's just throw some bone meal in here and we can wait a moment. And things end up being a little bit loud for a moment here, admittedly. But after that, we will have something real nice. And I'll show you that in a moment. It does take a while. It's 64 bone meal, which is quite a lot. And there you go. That's the farm. We'll get into that in a moment. Done doing its thing, and the items will be filled into here. We've got wheat seeds, so we can start making some breakfast. Though, if you want breakfast, getting seeds is potentially not great until you're, unless you're a chicken. And we've got some flowers to make our room smell a little bit nicer. Okay, all kidding aside though, today we are taking a look at a Minecraft it's automated, but I do not recommend you keep this thing running at all times. Flower farm, which also produces seeds and stuff like that. I do recommend placing it in a flower forest like we're in right now, because you'll be able to get a lot of different kinds of flower. You'll be able to see in this chest I only get one type of flower. That's because I exactly built this on top of a place where only these type of flowers spawn. But if I had placed it, for instance, here, I would have gotten 4 different types of flowers. So you do want to pay attention to where exactly you place this. You want to place it in a region where there's a lot of different kinds of flowers to get. So let's go over how this works quickly, because it's not that complicated, all things considered. We have a stack of bone meal, which we throw into our input chest, which is this one right here. That then with 2 hopper lines, because this thing goes so quickly that you actually need a double hopper line, into this dispenser, which then through this comparator gets activated into a repeater clock, which then everything else runs off of that repeater clock. So that repeater clock is only active when there's anything at all in the dispenser. It loops back into the dispenser itself, as you can see here with the green line firing the dispenser. Then with 1 tick of delay and then another tick of delay on the pistons itself, these pistons will go back and forth really, really quickly, which then let's just show this off this way real quickly with a lever. It breaks everything in the farm because all the blocks got displaced, and this time it didn't even give me any seeds. And then when you depower these and you power these instead, it gets pushed the other way, and that just happens like every 2 or so ticks. So it goes really, really quickly. And then we have a system here to detect when the redstone clock, let's see, stops, so that these observers can fire 2 tick pulses into the dispensers, which then dispense some water and throw them into the hoppers, all of the yield, which then goes into the output chest. That's a real quick overview of how to build this. That might be enough for you. We're going to go over a block by block step right now. I do not have exact amounts for this because it's really dependent on a lot of different things, how many of these you need. You can build this a little bit larger, a little bit smaller. I would say having a 5x5 area where things can actually grow is probably the easiest and best way to do this, because the timings and all work out with repeaters and stuff, and I don't think bone meal can go much farther than this anyway, so you need to replicate the dispenser setup, which makes things infinitely more complicated. So if you want to do more than just this, and you see how much this produces with just a single stack of bone meal, you don't particularly need much more than this. I would just recommend making a separate unit altogether. Anyway, so this is the type of stuff you need. You need a dispenser with an equal amount of water buckets. You need a certain amount of grass blocks, again a 5x5 area, but you do also need blocks on either side of that, so really you need to make it a 7x5 area. You need a amount of pistons, in this case it will be 10 pistons. You need hoppers for the collection system, and then as redstone circuitry you need observers, redstone repeaters, redstone dust, and also a comparator, which I always forget to add because it looks so goddamn much like Repeater if you just fly through this. So let's get started with the block by block tutorial. Let's build this one over here because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 types of flowers, 3 types of flowers. We've got a couple of different types of flowers. If we do this one as well, we've got an orange one. So let's build up here a little bit. And I'm going to go fairly high just because I don't want to have to burn down any trees. You can just build this on the floor, obviously. But for building purposes and tutorial purposes, I'm going to go build in the sky. So we're going to start by making this a 5 by 5 platform, which will be again the platform where we will be growing the actual plants. Then, because we'll be using pistons back and forth, we need to add 1 more block on each side, which that then makes this a 5 deep, 7 wide area. Next up, it's time to add our pistons. So you will be placing a row of pistons on one side of the platform. You'll be placing them 1 block away. You only need 5. 1 block away from your platform, and then on the other side, you'll actually be placing them right next to your platform. So you'll have to maybe put these in before the platform itself if you're doing this in survival mode, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I think it makes things a little bit more clear to first construct the platform itself. So you'll have something a little bit like this. Next up, we take our building blocks, and on the side where we have the distance right next to our platform, we leave 1 block, and then we start building our wall. This wall is kind of necessary because we actually need it to make sure nothing like falls out, because items will go flying all over the place, so you actually will need a little bit of a wall. And then this wall we will be removing in a second, so don't bother with that one. And you place your wall right on top of this here, which seems counterintuitive at first, but it will work, don't worry. And then you leave 1 block gap here because this is where your hoppers will be going. As a matter of fact, let's just put in our exit chest here. You can route this any way you want with like water or with hoppers. For the time being, we're just going to have our output chest here because that makes things significantly easier for this tutorial. Again, you can make it such that you have an input chest next to an output chest with like hopper lines and stuff like that. For this tutorial, we're not going to do that, but you definitely could. So this is the easiest way to just have an output chest, have it here, everything will be in this chest. Now we want to place in dispensers to this back wall over here. We're going to fill these with water buckets, which will be harvesting all of our yields, because there will be a lot of just items laying around on the floor, and with a little bit of a water pools, we'll be sending them into these hoppers, which then will filter down into this chest slowly but surely. Now we start with the actual redstone part of the build. So you want to punch out the middle block of your little farm area here, and you're going to want to place a temporary block here. Again, this becomes a lot easier when you're in creative mode. It's all possible in survival. And then place the dispenser facing upwards like that. Then replace the grass block you just destroyed. This dispenser is going to be the one with the bone meal in it. And as I will show you right now, if I get some bone meal, powering this dispenser will, I think there's some bone meal in here, right? Yeah, and a lever. I needed that. Thank you. As you can see, nothing's grown here yet. And then when we place a lever on here, flick it once, we have some grass, which we're going to be destroying right now because we don't really need grass in here at the moment. That is the basic functionality of this farm. Okay, so next up, we're going to actually do the redstone lines, starting with the detection system for if there's actually any bone meal in here. This is fairly simple. You just place a comparator like this. And I've actually built this one in reverse, so we're going to be placing it in this direction. It doesn't really matter that much, but there's a little bit more of an area to play with on this side because you've got 1 block more, and generally that's just the better way to put it. So you have a comparator going out, then you have a repeater going into a block, then you have your other comparator in subtract mode, that's essential, going back into itself, meaning that as long as there's items in here now, we have an active redstone clock. As soon as I take these out, the redstone clock will turn off. With that active, we can actually easily just run a redstone line back into the dispenser, and this is pretty much the activation system for the dispenser, because now when I put bone meal in here, it will start bone mealing the grass above it. And it's really as easy now as just running a redstone line to the pistons, and then we will actually get into a bit of a trickier situation here. So let's firstly do the pistons. The pistons really are as easy as just putting some blocks right here, running repeaters into this. Yes, this will power these pistons, believe it or not, it will. Hooking them up with some redstone, and then making sure you do the same on the other side. Now we need to hook this into our redstone clock, which is kind of the tricky part, because you do want these to fire simultaneously, as counterproductive as that seems. But as luck would have it, we already have a redstone line running roughly through the middle of this thing. So we can just take a repeater here, which is, again, for the timing, kind of essential, and also for the redstone signal strength, and then literally just run it over to this direction, and do the same to this direction, and just like that we have a somewhat functional farm, because at this point, once this is all hooked up, which it will be in a moment, when I place... things become more difficult to place in. When I place in my bone meal, as you can see, I start producing seeds and flowers. Again, in a fairly loud manner, but we do start producing them for sure. And you probably want to make this wall one higher. As you can see, some of the seeds are ending up on top of the wall, which means they won't be collected. And I'm sure there's some down here as well. No, actually, that is somewhat surprising. So you could just leave it there. You don't need to do the dispenser system. You could just make a door in here, and after all that happened, you can just walk in here, collect all of the seeds and flowers, and place them into your sorting system yourself. But of course, we're going to want to automate the collection aspect of it as well. So we've taken one output from this block, but we'll do that again. We'll place another repeater down here, meaning that this repeater will always be powered when there is something in this. And then we'll be running a redstone line down through the back of this thing, which is a little bit clumsy, but it works. It definitely does work. So we build a redstone line a little bit like this again. It's not the most neat redstone line you'll ever be building, and you could probably compact this quite a lot, but it works, and for right now, that is the most important part. So we'll be placing in some redstone down here. Do make sure that it doesn't run out though, and that's my bad, you need to place those in as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's all you need. If you need it to be bigger for whatever reason, maybe you made your farm a little bit wider, it doesn't hurt to throw in an extra repeater there. For the other parts here, you don't want to mess too much with the timings. This one, you can throw in a repeater, it doesn't matter that much. Then you place 1, 2, 3, 4 repeaters here. You don't actually need that fifth block, I miscalculated. And all set them to maximum tick delay. Then you will just go up to the right height with your observers, which I think is 3 in this case, and do the same thing on top of the very last repeater. You place in some building blocks right here with some repeaters. Again, this will activate the repeaters, don't worry about that. Then run a redstone line along this entire thing, and you will have your water activation system working just like that. It's a little bit iffy because I'll show you in a moment, it activates twice, but it doesn't hurt the productivity of the farm that much. So, as one final test, again, you can just like run chests into here still because you have this face and this face to place your hoppers into. We're not going to be doing that for right now, but you could, well actually let's just do it for right now. You could literally just run hoppers like this into a double chest, which is right here. And then when you throw in your bone meal, it will start filtering into here. And again, the water does activate at the start of the farm because there is a change in the redstone signal coming out of the comparator. But then it will wait until the entire thing is done, and water will activate, pushing items into these hoppers and then into your chest. It's really as easy as that. I hope you've been able to follow along with this tutorial. It's a little bit of a different style of tutorial. Before I just did things on one take, but right now I'm trying to slow down a little bit and really do it more block by block and explaining why things work a certain way and why other things might not work certain ways. So you can place this, as I did there, at the side of your house, and just like whenever you need seeds or flowers, go get them. Or you could just have them in a flower biome like this. Again, I do recommend that because, as you can see, that's the wrong chest. As you can see here, I get 2 different types of flowers here. Apparently not a third. Maybe I just got unlucky. But you get a lot of different types of flowers in this biome. And that way you can pretty much get every dye in the game, I believe. So this is a hyper useful farm if you are doing a lot of like colorful survival type building. Or even redstone building, if you want to like color code your redstone lines like this. Because if this was just all dirt, which at first it was, to be honest, this would be a mess. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, or it helped you out in your own survival builds, do not forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you back next time with a new farm, or whatever it is I make. Bye.